Hello, philosophers. I'm Chico. Welcome to the Philosopher's Classroom, where we explore something from the Philosopher's Show in a little more detail. We've been talking about justification in justified true belief theory. And that is to say, what knowledge is, all knowledge is just true belief, and then it's justified, right? And I talked about how justification is tricky. I started to talk about it, I should say. However, that's not necessarily the only tricky thing in this equation. Most philosophers, in fact, all philosophers will agree that when I say in order to know something, that thing has to be true, right? That just seems pretty obvious. You can't know things that are false. But what about the belief aspect of it? Is it the case that you have to believe something in order to know that thing? Now, I think that there are some good arguments to the contrary, only insofar as they are not looking at things like the justified true belief theorists are looking at them. People who are looking at it as knowledge is a totally different species of thing. Now we have something, I think. But if you're believing something like knowledge is just the same kind of a thing as belief, but you can sometimes believe things that are not true, or that you can sometimes know things that you don't believe. Now I think there are some questions here that we can talk about that are a little bit more, what you would say, a little bit more controversial or more difficult to agree on. In any case, why would we say something like this? Why would we say that possibly you can know things but not believe them? One possibility here would be something like this. Human psychology is bizarre. Oftentimes we have things, back of our heads that we don't realize, and this is why we go to counseling, right? And this isn't one that you need to go to counseling for, but personally, let's say, I have to admit, I saw a Saturday Night Live sketch on this too. I have to admit, I'm not proud of this fact, but I've heard Taylor Swift songs and have enjoyed them. And I've thought, I don't like Taylor Swift. What? No, right? I think maybe, if we're honest with ourselves, we all kind of like Taylor Swift songs, right? They're catchy, right? There's something like just catchy about them. So you might think deep down inside, you love Taylor Swift, and yet you might believe that you don't, right? Maybe there's a case of something that you know, but you don't believe. And here's another example from the movie A Few Good Men's. Jack Nicholson is kind of a corrupt Marine base commander. He's on trial, and he's being accused of doing bad things. And he says to Tom Cruise, the lawyer, that deep down in places that you don't like to talk about at parties, I think that's how the line goes, you're glad that I'm on that wall, right? You're happy that I'm there. Just don't question how I stay there and defend us, right? Just let me defend us. But you may act like you don't like it, but you really are glad that I am defending you, right? So this would be something similar. You know that you are happy about me defending you, but you don't believe that you're happy about me defending you. Is that possible? Is it possible for you to know something that you don't believe? One way to look at this is that it is belief without explicit representation. This might explain why this weird, right, phenomenon seems to come up. I know my skin is not periwinkle, right? Before this episode, I had never thought that thought. My skin is not periwinkle, right? So you might say that I don't have that belief, right? It's weird, right? It sounds weird to say it, like I don't believe my skin is not periwinkle. No, but the moment you say that my skin is not periwinkle, I like, oh yeah, I believe that, right? But before I didn't have that belief. So it sounds weird because I'm saying it further on out, right? I'm saying it in the future when I have actually thought about my skin being periwinkle, right? I look back and I say, at that time I didn't have that belief. So that seems tricky, right? I could even say, I know my skin is not smaragdine. I looked up weird colors. I'd never heard of smaragdine before. I don't even know if that's how you say smaragdine. However, it means something like emerald green, and green is my favorite color. So before this episode, I'd never had that thought. My skin is not smaragdine, because I didn't know that was even a thing, right? But if you had explained it to me, and I had looked at my skin, or I didn't even need to look at my skin, right? I know my skin can't be smaragdine. My skin is brown. So in either case, you might have said, I didn't have the belief, but I didn't have the belief yet, right? And you might think that I knew that my skin wasn't periwinkle or smaragdine beforehand. But really, it seems like what's happening, seems like what's going on is you didn't know that either beforehand, if you want to put it that way, right? If you want to look at beliefs like that, the same thing happens with knowledge. This is something we could call, we could make a distinction between dispositional and occurrent beliefs. Dispositional beliefs are things that you would be disposed to believe, right? Things that are in the back of your mind or something like that. They're not in the forefront of your mind, so you don't believe them insofar as you're looking dead at the belief right now, right? But, it's something that you would believe if it were brought forward. Or even, and sometimes you would say there's something that you do believe, but you just, they're stored in the back in the memory. Occurrent belief would be something that is right there in the forefront, and you say, "Hey, dude, your skin is periwinkle," and I say, "I don't believe that. I don't believe that my skin is periwinkle." Now it's an occurrent belief, right? When you haven't heard of a word like, what was it again? Smaragdine. I don't know how. Again, it looks like a weird. Who even came up with that? When you look at a belief like that, it might be the case that that you have dispositional beliefs already set up that will lead you to that belief once you find out what smaragdine means, right? But it's sort of like you're posed that way already. It's not like you disbelieve it or something like that. You just don't lack an occurrent belief right now, but you will have that occurrent belief when the time comes. And that seems to be the same thing with the knowledge. If I could look at it the same way. At the time, I didn't know that my skin was a smaragdine in a way because I didn't know what that was, or I wasn't thinking about it at the time. But once I think about it, all of a sudden, I know this. My skin is not smaragdine. So I don't know. It seems like this isn't a good example of belief or disbelief where you have knowledge, right? Something where you don't believe, but you do have knowledge.